As you know, folks, people have been calling for the housing crash the last 5 years. And if you listen to Logan Montashami, it's actually been 13 years of housing crash calls. Well, we have one individual on this panel who has done some deep and dark research on 3 housing crash calls, and we're going to go into them. Did they get it right? Did they get it wrong? Or was it a complete flop? Dion, you've done a lot of work on this. We're going to talk interest rates, foreclosures, and inventory. Tell us why you did this, why it was important, and what you found out.
Well, the starting idea was, it's 13 years. I've broken it down many times on every time I bought a property, here's the reasons why everyone was screaming not to buy a property. Financial freedom happened because I ignored the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But specifically since 2020, there are some YouTube channels that just blew up because fear sells, and there was a lot of things to be afraid of. There was a lot of uncertainty, like real things. We had never had a pandemic. We had places that had eviction moratoriums in place for 3 years. People didn't have to pay the rent, couldn't be kicked out. Like I get the fear coming in there, and so my initial start was as much work as it takes to put information together on a chart. I'm going to go to the YouTube channels who have the crash videos from 2021, 2023, 2022, and I'm going to call out. This is what they said. This is, if you watch this video, here's how much you lost. And then I realized they're not stupid. The videos are there. They want the video count.
Yeah.
But they've changed title and thumbnail on hundreds of videos. So the amount of work it would have taken would have been to watch videos to get, I'm not doing that. I'm not watching their stupid stuff from 3 years ago that was wrong to figure out what was the real title originally. So instead, I just thought, okay, here's the things that they've talked about over and over and over. The only one that's not on here that I almost went into, but it was too easy to prove wrong, was when forbearance ended. Because less than 1% of the people in forbearance ended up even starting foreclosures. But if you like, this is
let's pull up interest rates. Yep, here we go.
Because the fear mongers like to put up their fancy chart. Now, I'm not a fancy chart maker, but I've got the information here of the interest rates. When homes cost 100% of their value, every point interest rates go up, home prices are supposed to go down 10%. We heard that call hundreds and hundreds of times.
Some very large channels were adamant that as interest rates go up 1%, pricing would fall. The largest I remember was Meet Kevin. Meet Kevin had said that repeatedly. And I was actually on the Meet Kevin show, and we debated that for a while. And it's just not mathematically how it works, people. I mean, it's like, have you not looked at a 50-year chart? You're crazy.
Yeah, it was really great with Meet Kevin and Graham Stephan, 2 channels I watch. And when they make not their reacting to videos or their Jubilee videos, but they're, here's a financial concept. I like the way they think. Yeah. And they both started out with, as interest rates rise, here's what's going to happen to prices. And about a month or 2 in, when they realized that it wasn't happening, they started making here's the crash video. And then the video was 10 minutes of why there's no crash coming, because they knew what sells.
Yeah, they know that's something I learned after 15,000 videos. You can't beat the algorithm with volume, Zuber. You got to play the game. So I got to change. Yeah. Matt, when you look at this, what do you think?
So Dion, do you want to take me through it? So I'm seeing interest rates because I don't see the big dip in 2021. So
when interest rates were where they at in 2020, right? Interest rates have trended. So it's predicted price crash.
Predicted, got it.
The interest rates in 2021, they were a little lower. Like 2020, they were at 0. Fed rate was 0. So in 2021, it wasn't going much lower than that.
Oh, I see where the 0 is clocked in there. I see. So that's why I see.
Bottom, right?
Yeah,
I see. To the left. Like I said,
what I was saying was not much movement, but it's not much. But I understand why it's not much movement now.
There's not much movement because it's so close to 0.
Correct.
Right? On the percentile basis of where the rates are.
Yep, you're exactly right.
They have come up. They're in the 5, I think right now. Fed rates 5 something. So the lending rate that we see is 7, 8, whatever you can buy it down to. It's increased basically 5 points, meaning we should have seen a 50% crash in prices. The prediction would have went, it says, down to like 70 in reality, because it's not gone up as much. Right. But what happened, the green line, is what really happened with prices.
Right.
When the prediction of and they weren't presenting it like, I think this will happen. They were saying mathematically facts state this is what has to happen.
Yeah, it was very, I mean, I remember the videos and I remember creating like, guys, that's not how it works. They were very declarative. They were basically trying to say, as interest rates go up 1 point, the payment impact is X. And thus, when you have an X payment impact, you have to pay less. And I'm like, that might be mathematically how it works, but that's
Correct.
not how housing works.
Correct.
And it was, and the other thing that people really missed is, and I've said this repeatedly, the Fed broke housing not because they raised rates, it's because they kept them too low for too long.
Correct.
So you allowed buyers and refinancers to lock in fixed shelter costs at artificially and once in a lifetime rates, which has broken the housing market for a freaking decade, right? Yep. We're only 5 years into a broken decade. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, we're not seeing a lot of rental appreciation as far as rents going up a lot anymore. Like they've really kind of flatlined. Mm-hmm. In some cases where we were breaking a unit into the market at 2023 or 24, and those people have been there for 2 or 3 years, it's either flat or in some cases it might even be slightly down.
Yeah, I've had a couple go down. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had a few. Out of all the ones that we've re-rented, we've had a couple of them go down. We've had a lot more go up because tenants have moved out and it's given us an opportunity to recapture more of the market back. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like we would do the binder strategy with them to get it from 15 to 1900, but market's really 21 or 22. When they move out, we then, go through, clean it up, do a little spruce job, and we're at 2195. And so when people are like, well, I just don't want you to be mad that I'm leaving, dude, I will help you pack.
Exactly.
I'm going to make an extra.
For me.
Yeah, I'm going to make an extra $3 or $4 grand this year, not keeping your rent artificially low. Yeah. Now we do that for retirees, because we know that they live limited income. So we do that for retirees where we keep their rent artificially low. However, if you are gainfully employed or if you are a Section 8 tenant, you pay what the market pays. You pay what everybody else pays.
Yeah, love it. All right, Dion, you want to take us to foreclosures? Is that next?
Yes.
All right.
Foreclosures one is kind of my favorite because it was the law of small numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Foreclosures in 2018, 19, 17 were reduced to 0 during a forbearance period where foreclosures weren't even allowed to start. And when something is reduced to almost 0, it was really close. 100% increase.
Oh yeah.
Is so small that it can't impact anything. Right. And so the predictions on foreclosures, because forbearance was ending, because interest rates went up. I mean, there was video after video after video of here's the foreclosures, and they were almost all presented like it was going to impact 2 months from now.
Yeah, I don't understand how people get away with not understanding how the foreclosure process works. I mean, people, it doesn't take but a 5-second Google search to realize that the foreclosure wave from the GFC was 1,000 freaking days. 1,000.
Yeah.
And you think it's going to happen in 60 days? Again, you don't know the process. You miss a payment today, you are 90 days away from your first possible NOD. And NOD is notice of default. Now,
yep.
Or whatever, delinquency.
Yes.
And that is not even a guarantee today. That's just the first time they're legally allowed to give it to you.
That's right.
Right? With the ability to do forbearance and workouts and loan mods and blah, 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 blah. You're not getting one of those in 90 days. This foreclosure nonsense is crazy. And you're right, Dion. I reported the other day that Sacramento distressed sales were up 160%. Right? They went from like 1 to 3 or something. It's like, okay, guys, you're going to get excited by 3. It's just wild for me to look at this stuff.
The other thing that gets looked at a lot too is like the tax foreclosure sales, like taking it back based on taxes not being paid. I can tell you that I've bought 3 of those properties ever. Yeah. And I can tell you that the shortest amount of time from the person being out of the property to when I was allowed to purchase it, the shortest amount of time was 18 months.
Wow.
Because the attorneys want to make sure that with all the homestead rights and all the, all of that stuff, that something wasn't accidentally robo-signed. And so everything is double and triple checked. The mistakes still get made.
Sure.
But the issue is the amount of time it takes to get there. 18 months was the soonest I've ever bought any property from a city or town. 18 months was the shortest amount of time that it took me to be able to close on that deal. And I was on the asset manager. I was on the town every 60 days. Hey, where are we at on this? Hey, where are we at on this? Hey, where are we at on this? There aren't that many of them. They just don't happen.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say about foreclosures, I'll even say distressed sales, because I'll even throw short sales into that. They're undoubtedly going to continue to go up. And I also agree, and I have given Melody Wright a shout out because she pointed out the FHA shenanigans that were going on. And I have no doubt that FHA foreclosures specifically are going to go up and go up dramatically.
Yes.
But that's a 2026 problem, maybe 2027, right?
We're finally seeing inventory now. We're finally starting to see inventory now, but we're going from, to Dion's point, 0, then to about 1 a month, and now to, I'd say 3 or 4 a month, but that's for the entire state.
Yeah, and it'll go higher. It'll double again.
Yes.
It'll double
Can you
again.
pull up
To
the chart
Dion's
again,
point.
Zuber? I've got a
Of course.
point I'd like to make that might be a little
Please.
contrarian to the idea that foreclosures will get worse. So the idea here, and the reason why there's two 2020s, is because 2020 is almost 2 years. We entered January and February of 2020 with consistent data from 2017, 18, 19. It was 100% of whatever was happening was basically flat.
Yep.
And then in March, we had a 30% drop. We had the world shut down with people experiencing this for the first time. Luckily, I was paying attention to the daily financial news, and you pointed out how low interest rates got. And I picked up I literally emptied out my retirement accounts and grabbed my best performing asset, my triplex that I could almost retire on that property, like frugally, but I wouldn't. So thanks for that. Every time it comes up.
You're welcome. Yep.
So foreclosures aren't tied to people having financial hardship. I know so many people think they went through a foreclosure because they stopped paying their mortgage. Foreclosures are also tied, so they're tied to that, but they're also tied to, would I walk away from this deal? And if you notice, from 2020 on this chart, as it trends all the way to 2024, it's inversely proportionate to property value.
Of course.
Unless homeowners become allergic to money, they are less and less incentivized to foreclose. They'll sell. So will FHA things happen? Yeah, if they bought in the last 2 years. But and with record low, like we've lost a third of the number of purchases we have, transactions we have in the year since 2020, basically. So we have less and less people that are buying at a point in time where they don't have the equity. The people who have the equity are going to sell, or they're going to realize, wow, there's a lot of equity in here. What can I do to keep this? When in 2009, 10, and 11, when the bank said, hey, your property's worth $100,000, you owe us 140, what's your plan?
Yeah,
sure.
It's all yours. Planned obsolescence, or whatever that fancy term you use, whatever it is, when they plan on walking away. I forget.
That's okay. I don't know.
Yeah. So as property values increase, the opportunity for the chances of foreclosure are going to go down. So if we do see that Redfin article we talked about, where inventory spikes, buyers go away, prices not only stop going up slower, but eventually start to decline, maybe foreclosures would increase.
Yeah, and then the last thing I'll say about this, because you bring up an excellent point, the amount of equity that homeowners have is at a record level. Let's just be very clear. But the other thing about this that is unlike the Great Recession is shelter costs. Unless people don't like living in shelter, for most people, they have artificially fixed their shelter cost at record low levels. That's very different than the GFC. When we had 51% ARMs originated, people's payments were going from $1,000 to $4,000.
Correct.
And rent was $2,000. Today we have people with $1,000 mortgage payments and $2,500 rent, but the $1,000 is fixed. It's not going to jump in 2 years like Neg Am and Ninja Loans did last time. Right? People will fight to stay in their homes. They will not pay credit cards. They will not pay student loans. They will not pay their car notes. But they're going to do everything they can to have shelter be $1,000 in a $2,700 market. It's just, unless people don't like money, like you said, Dion, they're allergic to money. They're gonna fight kicking and screaming.
Agreed.
All right, Dion, you want to hit the last one?
Yeah, we're ready for inventory.
All right,
This is
let's
the
look at the
thing.
third one.
The law of small numbers.
Yeah.
How many times did we hear some people who've been on your channel?
Yeah.
She's a very good presenter. She's called 47 of the last housing crashes at zero, and the law of small numbers. We just saw the Redfin article. Here's what's happening with inventory. It's above where the buyers are. But where are we in comparison to the inventory from 5 years ago? Like how many years did it have to dip for people to say shadow inventory? They got so tired of being called out on, well, actual data says inventory is low. No, it's shadow inventory.
Shadow
it's
inventory.
Boomers, it's the move up buyer. It's
Silver tsunami.
What was the main one was Gen Z, not millennials, living with their parents to the age of 26 at more of a time than any point in history. Like all of these excuses for here's why shadow inventory was going to hit the market.
Mm-hmm.
Did it? So we're right back to that law of small numbers with Redfin saying, look at inventory being up. Yeah, we're what, 80%, 90% of where we were in 2020. And when everybody goes, well, yeah, it means we're back to almost normal. Yeah. So in normal from 2013 to 2020, where was the crash in those 7 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nowhere.
So,
yeah. Again, and then the inventory one is the one that really is interesting. Like we talked about with the Redfin article, it's unit mix, it's type, it's price points, it's quality. More inventory, wish pricing. Let's never forget wish pricing. Right. And then the last thing is what people don't really realize about all supply demand charts is that it's the buyer who makes the price, right? Not the seller. Sellers can pick any number they want out of air, but it's the buyer who actually makes the deal. So, Dion, there's a lot of great work done here. Matt, any thoughts on this?
I mean, I think a lot of people need to consider the fact that they're investing in an area that probably are, towns of 15, 20, 25, 30, 35,000 people, right? So fairly thin markets. I know for me in my market, there will be more condos put on the market in a 3-month period than have been in the last 4 years. Why is that? It's because they're actually building a 100 or a 300 unit condo development, and they're going to start to bring them to market, and they're going to start to put them on. Now, somebody might look at that and go, oh my word, 300 units, like that's never going to sell. Well, they don't do it all at once. They do them as they finish, and they'll start to roll off. But that inventory of 300 is coming, and it's going to come over a 3 to 6 month period because that's how fast they're going to be finishing them. So as I look at it, I just understand that the market moves slowly, that there certainly will be times I'm happy that I'm not a real developer because I would be a little bit nervous and scared right now. With
variable rate debt. Yeah, you bet your ass.
Well, variable rate debt, but is what I'm building going to sell anywhere near what I'm projecting it to sell for? This is why I hate the concept of pro forma rents and pro forma earnings.
What's really funny about what you just said is they probably got this deal approved 2 years ago.
Nope, they got this deal approved in 2019.
Oh my God. So just think about that. Putting your plans together in 2019, rolling out 2020, you've had a little bit of, it's a different economy. Let's just say
a little bit different and price increase. Right. And so, they're the ones that are now renting out, studios for $2,600 a month. Wow. I just rented out a beautiful 2-bedroom for 24.
There you go.
But I'm thankful to them because that rising tide has lifted all boats. And there are some people that are renting those units, but I think people need to be cautious. Certainly and Dion made the point a number of times, even though it was somewhat nuanced, it was percentages in thin markets. Yeah. Do your own research. What we always try and give people, Mike, I believe, is we give them the tools to understand, to dissect their market and understand really what's occurring, because none of these charts matter. None of these channels matter on a national scale. They don't matter. Certain real estate in my market works really well. Other real estate in my market sucks and it doesn't work and it never will and it never has. Right. Or it used to and it doesn't anymore, or it used to not work and now it might make a little bit of money. But every one of our markets is different. And that's why the things that we try and give people are the tools to understand what's actually occurring in that market to then be able to understand what the next step needs to be and if that's something that they should consider and what assets they should be looking at.
Love it. Dion, you did a lot of work here. You went back and you found 3 different things: interest rates, foreclosures, and inventory. We thank you for that. What are your closing thoughts, having looked at these charts so often?
So if I had control of the screen, I wouldn't ask you to work, but I'm going to ask you to pull up the charts one at a time. So first, inventory.
Oh, inventory. Sorry, I pulled up the wrong one. Sorry.
That's okay.
Inventory.
So every time I talk about investing since 2013 and closing out a property every couple of years in the beginning, I talk about the reasons why you shouldn't buy when I did. Everybody was screaming. When we heard about the predictions for the crash based on inventory, everyone said this time is different. We've had an interest rate lock. This time is different. We have foreclosures coming from forbearance ending. This time is different. Go ahead and pull that chart down and grab the foreclosures one. When foreclosures were such a small number, and every now and then they would spike or go up a little, and people weren't tracking that values were going up, how many times did we hear this time is different? This has never happened before. We literally, the mantra was this time is different. Go ahead and grab the other chart on interest rates. We saw interest rates drop to the lowest we've ever, I don't know if we've ever seen a 0 Fed rate before. I mean, maybe we have, but not in my memory. And so when they tripled in 2022, they tripled what the mortgage rates people were getting. This time is different. Whether you're watching this now in 2025 when we make it, or you found us in Futureland, this time is different is still going to be the mantra. There will always be an excuse for you not to take action.
True.
How many years of your life will you continue to work because you fell for someone else's fear, uncertainty, and doubt?
Where can they find you, Dion?
Right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom. And you can also find me watching the Michael Zuber One Rental at a Time daily financial news update at 7:30 in the morning most days. And if you found this video because it was your first one on this channel, you should definitely hang out with us there.
There you go. And Matt, where can they find you? And tell us about the Raging Tomato.
The Raging Tomato. It is going to be interesting. It is the Coliseum for words, as I call it. There will be belittling, insulting, and things that some soy boys will never come back from. That I will make sure to be the one that that throws the first salvo. But we'll see what happens. We're going to be talking about government programs, and one that's near and dear to my heart is Section 8. So I'm very excited to talk about that because now I've lived it. I couldn't talk about it like I could. I couldn't talk about it 4 years ago like I can today. So I've been all the ins and outs, all the administrative stuff, the blocking and tackling, the tenants, the application process. I have experienced it all now times. We've got about 103 tenant years in Section 8 now. And so we really understand the program quite well for our area. And so even though they like to Google things, I will just be hitting them with the normal experience because no application has ever asked for somebody if they can Google things. So Raging Tomato, 9 p.m. Eastern time on the Raging Tomato with Sarah. She's an amazing host. And then whatever folks decide that they want to come in and have a conversation about those programs.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to look for the clip notes because my personality would not do well in that environment. But guys, take care, have fun. And again, we're going live Sunday, the 3 of us, for the first hour, and then Dion and I for the second hour. Appreciate you guys. Take care. Have a good week.
Thanks, Mike. You too.